Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Keystone Chronicles podcast. Guys, with us this week, we're joined by Matt Sipling of Bowcreek Outdoors. I'm very excited for this conversation because Matt and I have been bullshitting here for about a half an hour going into this, and we got some real good feng shui here together. Matt, how are you, man?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having
Um,
me.
yeah, it's exciting to have you on here, man. When I stumbled across a PA-based camera company, I said, "Here we go." I mean, this is a no-brainer. This is exactly what we stand for here in this resident podcast, and I'm excited to have you on, man. We're gonna talk some cameras. We're gonna talk some hunting, and maybe we'll talk. Maybe we'll throw in some things we'd like to see change or things that we really like about the state.
Yeah,
So. Um,
yeah. Excited to talk to you.
Let's do an introduction, brother. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do for a living?
All right. Well, I'm Matt Sipling. I'm originally from a small town in southern York County called Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. Um, when I grew up there, it was, I believe, around 1,800 people. It's since expanded significantly. There's no stoplight in the town. Just nothing to do but be outdoors or get in trouble, one or the other. Um, So right now, I still have my full-time job, which is I plan labor for a big retail and online, basically clothing company. They do some yard stuff as well, like I don't know, lawn furniture, things like that. So I
Okay.
handle the East Coast distribution for that, um, and then come home and work on Bow Creek.
So what you're saying is your team no sleep.
Yeah, team no sleep, about 5 hours a night, and go, go, go.
I understand, brother. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand the whole entrepreneurship. I salute you. I know what's going on there. Burning
Yeah.
the midnight oil, as they would say, or up with the owls and up with the birds also.
Yep.
Um, so what was the idea, man? What makes us want to get into trail cameras?
Well, I got to give that to my brother. Um, I started out in the deer feed business. Um, I was in the military, deployed a lot, read a lot about deer health. When I came home, I just started making my own mix. It took me about 7 years to get it to where I wanted. With the laws in PA. I could go from about the end of January to the end of August, and
Hmm.
just kept tinkering with it, and that ended up people saw like some of my trail cam photos and were like, "Oh, can you make me some of that?" Um, so I was like, "Okay, cool. Like I can make you that, and you can basically pay for my deer feed." And so naturally, what goes with deer feed is cameras.
Right.
And my brother dove into that. We had a business at the time that was doing trade show logistics. We would build custom trade show displays, and we just had time on our hands because a lot of it was big storage, like the big custom exhibits that you see at any kind of trade show you go to.
Hmm.
Um, so we would build those, store them for our clients, and then he dove into it. And next thing I know, he just presented it to me. I mean, we were still working, making deer feed. Our busy months are really the end of deer season. People wanted to see, what's still out there. And then um, really, after turkey season goes, like that really explodes again. Um, June, July, August, again, people
Sure.
want to see what's out there. And so he's like, "Hey, I found this camera. I want to get some in. What do you think?" And it's funny because our first order was like 40 cameras. And that was a stretch for us at that time. And then I think my last order before trade show season was uh, right around 700 cameras. So it was just like, you know, you talk about the entrepreneurship part of it, and you're like sitting here and you just feel like you have your moments where you feel like you're stuck in the mud. And I'm sure from doing DJing for 16 years, like you're just like, some days you're just like, what's going on here? But then when you write that check to buy that amount of cameras and you're like, wow, that's the most money I've ever sent somewhere. And you're like, but we have a great customer base, a great, anytime we launch something, we do very well. Our customers are very loyal. Um, but so that that's how we ended up in cameras. And I'm not even sure. We just released our cell camera last summer, and I believe that was our seventh or eighth camera that we've launched in 9 years. I don't believe we've had our BC.28 out for 4 years just because we can't find anything better to replace it. That's our high end um, 36 megapixel camera, but it literally takes DSLR quality photos.
Mm.
So it's kind of hard to find something to replace that. And I'm just not into replacing cameras to come out with a new model. If something works, I stick with it. And so, yeah, I believe that was our seventh or eighth camera. I'd have to sit here and go through all the numbers, but um, yeah. So that was a big undertaking. We tried for 6 years to get a camera that we felt proud enough to put our name on. And actually, what we did was take the BC.48 and just add a cellular module to it. Um, so that's that's where we ended up, and that's going very well for us.
Yeah, I would assume it is because I've seen the quality of the images, and you ain't lying. The DSLR image is a great
Yeah,
example. And I seen some really cool pictures. I just was looking earlier there. Someone had like a shadow, and they had like the sun setting in the background, and I'm like, man,
that
that's
was
one hell of
probably
a.
me. I've gotten into. There's a guy on Instagram called Trail Camology, and
Mhm,
he's really gotten me into doing more creative setups. So I have like my hunting cameras, but then I have essentially what are marketing
mhm,
uh, pictures. Um, and sometimes I get lucky that I just got one at the beginning of April, I believe it was, with a turkey with its wings spread really wide. That camera's not out yet, but it's one of our test cameras that should release this summer. Um, but it was just awesome. I mean, I couldn't have framed it any better if I was sitting there taking the picture and the sun's coming through the turkey's wings, and it was pretty awesome. But I'll set them up on rocks knowing I'm not going to get a lot of pictures, but I've gotten some cool ones. What I really want is like a bobcat coming through the rocks or a bear coming through the rocks, and but that hasn't happened yet. And that camera's been in the same spot for like 3 years, so I don't know if it'll ever happen. But did get some cool turkeys on that one. But yeah, try to get everything we tell customers not to do, like set it up facing into the sunrise or sunset. Uh, I do that for some of our shots, but
right. Yeah. So you say you had two types of the trail cameras, right? You have the stereotypical stationary trail cam, the one that you're
yep,
going to need to put your SD card in
yeah,
and then revisit to remove that SD card. And then you said you guys also have the cell phone cameras now.
yep.
Um, Elaborate on that a little bit. What are the advantages of each?
If I had all the time in the world, I would only run SD cameras. I love taking my dogs out, especially this time of year. Well, maybe not right now with turkey season, but in the off
Hmm.
season, and just I'll run 40 cameras a year or 40 cameras at a time, and just taking. I have two labs that I take with me, and I love just being out in nature and being able to pull cards, not knowing what I'm going to get.
Hmm.
Um, what I've found myself is because I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of cell cams, but I know that's what the market is going towards because essentially you're selling people time.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
and I know that's what I appreciate about it with, we talked about my son's hockey schedule and things like that.
Yep.
You're selling people time. And we're going to launch a solar panel here soon that we've tested for 8 months, and that thing's pretty awesome. I haven't had to change batteries in any of my cameras. Certainly wouldn't recommend it for public land because it's an eyesore,
Hmm.
but it's a good size panel. Um, what I have found personally is when I sit down at my computer with an SD card, is I'm analyzing the picture more. I'm analyzing where that deer's coming from, why it's doing what it's doing at that time of the day. Where if I pick up my phone and I look at my phone, I'm going, oh, that's a cool picture. And then I put it down and I don't necessarily go back and revisit it and even really think much of it, where sometimes it'll take me 4 hours to check SD cards just because of how many cameras I'm running. So the advantages for cell cam, I think, is that it's selling you time. That's a huge advantage. It's keeping you out of the woods. Um, you know, Everybody talks about how often you should be in the woods checking your cameras and things like that. So with our BC52, like that thing has such long battery life. If I'm going to put something on a piece of public that I might not get to, I might just say, okay, I'm going to let this soak. I can let it soak for a year and come back. And chances are, if I'm only running picture, it's still going to have battery life. Um, so you can gather a lot of data with that camera. Um, but like I said, I just feel like when I'm checking cards and I'm sitting at my computer, I'm putting more thought into the picture. Because, like I say, I feel trail cameras are used for two reasons. A lot of people use it for entertainment, but if you use it for a tool,
Hmm.
you know, it can certainly help you a lot. Um, this year, I had the cell cams out. I think I have 8 right now that I have out, and not, I didn't hunt till October 28th. And when I finally went in, I got in on my target buck the very first day I was there. Um, I don't know if I'm crazy, but this year I was bound and determined to self film on the ground without a blind. And I realized that's probably not the smartest thing to do. He busted me. So, but I like the challenge of hunting. And I don't know, I've just fallen in love with ground hunting the past few years. So I got to figure a different way next year. But
I will tell you, I was raised to be a tree stand hunter,
yeah,
and Dad said, "Hey, this works. Take this as you will, right?"
yeah,
And it's funny that that is the case because when I first started archery hunting, he didn't want me up in a tree stand, right? Because things can happen. I
right,
will say, at that time, I know that safe tree stand safety has come a long way, right?
for
And
sure.
I remember my uncles and my dad and them, they probably only hunted like 10 feet off the ground, 12 feet off the ground in a wooden tree stand, right?
Hmm.
And he built me a blind, right? We just put some sticks up and, a little like lean-to like blind. And sure as shit, the biggest buck we have on our property comes up to me. And here I am, 14 years old, and I had a Browning Micromidas 2. And there's some listeners out there that might know what that is. And um, compound bow, pull the bow
Yep.
back. Deer's probably what I thought was 18, 20 yards, and the deer was probably 30. And pull the bow back, shot right underneath him. And from there forward, I was hooked. And one of my first experiences was on the ground. And, I never really turned back to the ground though. After that, I was up in the tree and and
Yeah.
I've been very successful and very blessed since. But I think that the ground hunting game has become popular again because of your guys, the hunting public,
Right.
right? Zach Fehrenbaugh and them guys, the Untamed boys. There's a whole bunch of shout outs I could do. But, you know, they they're very good at what they do, and it's like if you're a good I feel like if you're a good turkey hunter, I think you can bring some of that you know, the way you move and getting your movements timed correctly and stuff into play. Because the hardest part about ground hunting is the draw.
Right.
Once
Yep.
you're back, you're set and you're ready to rock and roll. But how long are you
Yep.
gonna have to hold the bow back? You know how it
Right.
is.
Yeah. I mean, that buck right there, I killed on the ground, and it was just such an awesome experience. I'm like, I just want to keep doing this, and but I wasn't filming, you know, that filming. And I think if I remember correctly, the hunting public tried to self film a few of theirs, and now all of a sudden, they were blowing hunts when they first started, and now they have cameramen on all their hunts. But I'm not. I don't know that that's a fact, but I feel like it might be.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. I just my son, probably my favorite hunt ever. My son killed a 10 point on the ground. Now he had a crossbow, but it was pretty spectacular because I'm trying to teach him to be a woodsman. You know,
Hmm.
he was allowed to kill his first deer. Well, killed a doe and a buck out of a ground blind, and then after that, I was like, no more. And then killed his first turkey out of a ground blind. I was like, okay, no more. Um, Plus, I like to run and gun with turkey hunting, and I think he can learn a lot more from doing that and using topography to his advantage and things like that. So, learning how to be a woodsman, this is the Keystone Chronicles. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of pride in being a PA sportsman.
I agree. I agree. Strong history. If you're
Yeah.
a successful outdoorsman here in Pennsylvania, I'll say it right now. I feel like you can go to any state and be successful.
It's
Um,
funny you say that because, when like I said, I was in the military, and I used to go to Kentucky turkey hunting. A buddy of mine had, it was just small 20 acres, but he had a field in the middle of a forest. And like, I had other buddies down there, like friends of mine, and we went down there and we were filming. We could have killed probably 10 birds in 2.5 days. And my buddies that were with us, they were hunting farms and they couldn't get anything killed. And the guy said to me, he goes, man, how'd you guys do so good? I said, listen, we're from Pennsylvania. I'm like, that's like the Ivy League of hunting. I'm like, you got to be a true woodsman. I'm like, this down here is like your local community college. And he's like, oh, okay, that's how it is. I'm like, yeah, like our birds get educated real quick, our deer get educated real quick. Um, you know, you got that many hunters in the woods, like it doesn't take long for them to start picking up on things.
Yep. Yep, that's a fact, man. And it's funny, like there's a lot of data that will support you saying something like that or me saying something like that because if you jump on things like YouTube and stuff like that and you look at the analytics on PA public hunting or PA,
Hmm.
when you see that stuff and you see the amount of views, there's other people in other states that are watching that saying, them boys are doing something right there.
Right.
And it's, shout out to your Michigan guys, some other states out there too
Oh
that
yeah,
are that
for
are
sure.
that are really really tough to hunt. But I will attest to the fact that I've been to Indiana, I've done my thing there. Ohio. It's and I'm not saying like we're better than anybody. I'm not saying that. Just there's a lot of pressure here. That's all it is.
Right.
And you have to. When you're in a bucket of water, you either die or you learn to swim, right?
Right.
So you have to. Uh, Find a way and you do. And I think what you're doing with your son's great, man, because the woodsman thing is a dying thing,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
And there's just little things that you can pick up on. And everybody, you want to take the easy route, right? But like you don't just kill mature animals, whether that's birds, whether that's deer, whatever it is that you're hunting by taking the easy route. I'm not saying it doesn't happen for some people, but I'm saying the people that are doing it year in and year out, right? They're, here's the handicap ramp or the elevator, if you will, and here's the steps, right?
Yep.
And the guys that are taking the steps are probably the ones that are having more success because they're going to see it all on the way up. Or sometimes I like to compare it to driving across the country or flying across the country, right? Here's the quick and easy way, and you're there.
Right.
But along the way, you didn't see all that other stuff. You drove across, you got to see all that other stuff. So
Exactly.
it's
And it's funny, like when I was listening to your podcast with Aaron Pascaret, and he said about going, and he didn't feel like he deserved, it was, I don't remember if it was his New York buck or his PA
hmm
buck, but,
yeah.
you know, that happened to me with the biggest buck I killed. I had 4 days to hunt in 1 year, and I killed my biggest buck ever. And it was like, none of this makes sense. I put in like years before I'd get out, maybe 10 or 20 days, in the archery season. And here I kill the biggest buck I ever kill. It's 40 degrees, which is hot on New Year's Eve with a 15-mile-an-hour wind. Like none of it made sense. But what I knew from past history was they liked to go down to this hayfield because it was really the only thing they had to eat in the area. And I was going to shoot a doe. Like I just wanted meat.
hmm
And I get there, had my camera up for 2 weeks, and there was a giant buck on there every. I think it was like he was either there every other day, every third day. It kind of rotated. And a buddy of mine came up from Maryland to film it. That was back before like the 4K cameras that really
right.
kept the light real well. So it was in the last half hour. But you know, and he's videotaping me after the recovery. He's like, say something, and I'm like, I couldn't say anything because it was a tough year personally, and like none of it was making sense.
hmm
Here I am sitting over this buck. I hunted 3 days this year. Years past, I'd kill a good buck every other year at that time, and like it just didn't make sense. So like the work you put in the past and you use that history, that's the reason that came together. And it sounded like that's the way it was for Aaron as well. And it's like
hmm
sometimes you feel like if it's not tough, I don't deserve it. And I think that's like a PA mentality.
it is.
It's
It
like you
is.
go to Kentucky turkey hunting and it was damn near a slam dunk. And you're like, well, this is kind of fun. Every once in a while, it's okay to have fun. Like, get an easy hunt in here or there. But
Yep. It's
really, it's not
bittersweet, is
even
what it
easy.
is.
Right.
Yeah, it is because you look back at it and you're like, man, as much as, last year really burnt me and really, just kicked the dog shit out of me, you get away with one, right?
Right.
And you have a good year. But the thing is, like, and I remember talking to Aaron about this, it's super bittersweet, but then you can focus on, hey, my buddy needs my help. My
Yeah.
son needs my help. My dad needs my help. My brother needs my help, right?
Yeah.
And that's just as much fun. And you know
Oh,
that from
yeah.
experience. And
Yep.
um, yeah, it's a PA pride thing, man, and that's why this show
Right.
is successful, and that's why your camera company has a good reputation immediately because the outdoor space in Pennsylvania is really good,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
there
It's
the guys
great.
they're knowledgeable and they're from all the people that I know the history and heritage of Pennsylvania hunting and fishing and outdoor activities altogether is really good.
Yeah.
So
People take a lot of pride in that.
they really do. So I would like to get into when we go out and set up cameras, right? Let's
Hmm.
talk about some of the best practices that we can do in setting up cameras and what we might look for to where we want to set them up.
Yeah. I think that really depends on obviously the species. I sent this time of year. I set my cameras a little lower just because of turkey. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
more interested in the turkey.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Um, but if I'm setting up for deer, which I think the majority of people are probably looking at that angle more than turkey, just based on how many people hunt the species. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing is I'm going to that spot on the trail that I'm looking for where I expect that deer to cross that trail or whatever trail they're using. I kneel down and get like squat down, basically get eye height and pick that spot on a tree, and that's where I hang it. I don't say go hip high on the tree or anything like that because you have topography of the trail. Um, you could be set up above the trail, below the trail. The other key thing I think that's important is setting your camera up on a 45-degree angle. I see a lot of people set it up parallel to the trail, like at a 90-degree angle. Um, if you're not like our trigger speeds are all point 0.3, which sometimes that's too fast. I'll set them on 3 pictures. Um, if it's during the rut, I'll change it. I might set it up on picture plus video, um, just in case that doe's coming through and you don't want to miss that buck on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Or some of our cameras go anywhere from 5 to 6 pictures. I might set it up on a 6 picture burst, but set it up 45 degrees. If you have like a zero point 0.8 second trigger speed and all you're getting is the ass end of the deer, try setting it up on a 45-degree angle. That gives the deer more time to move through that trigger range, and it hopefully will trigger sooner, to where you're not getting that ass end of the deer anymore. Um,
Hmm.
but
That's a good point.
for turkeys, I'm looking for like if you have history with the area, strut zones. I love pictures of strutting turkeys. Been fortunate enough to get a couple gobbling this year. I love running video on turkeys. Just all our cameras have front facing microphones, so it picks up the sound really well. Um, some companies, the microphone is underneath, which kind of muffles the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you know those areas where they're strutting, you know, a flat on a ridge or something like that, that's where I like to put them. Um, Deer, it really depends. I mean, the way our season starts, you almost have to transition your cameras from September to October. Like, I'm going to try and find like an oak flat or something like that. Or even if you go into the woods and listen for like a tree, that's dropping acorns, and you can find that hot tree, similar to how really you should be hunting that time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll set them up there. Um, if you're fortunate enough to have field edges, obviously, any kind of, I guess this really depends. I like points and topography and stuff that they're going to move around, to try and catch them off guard. You know, I guess it just depends on the area you're hunting. Any kind of fringe habitat, they love those transitions from oaks to hardwood or pines to hardwoods. Really, any kind of change in vegetation.
Yeah.
Um,
I had an older gentleman tell me one time, and I live by it. This was years and years and years ago, but he said, deer are creatures of uh, edge.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, and I believe that to be true for not just deer, but a lot of animals, right?
Yep.
Where do you find your squirrels? Where do you find your rabbits?
Yeah.
Even your turkeys. If you hunt fields, you probably kill birds, right?
Right.
A lot of guys like to shoot the birds that are in the woods. I get it. That's
Yeah.
you can find where they're all roosted up and catch them coming out of the roost. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. But
Yeah.
uh, if it's raining, I know that when we're turkey hunting, you're gonna catch me looking for a field edge somewhere. But
Yeah. Absolutely.
we actually just talked about this on the show not too long ago. We said, we had some theories and stuff, and we said, other than feed, right, like some worms and stuff like that in the
Mhm.
rain, that the birds might be out there because maybe they just can't hear very well with
Yeah.
the rain, and then the predators can get up on them a little easier, and they want
Yeah.
to
I'd
flock
agree
up
with
out in
that.
the open.
Or, another thing would be like right after the rain, drying out their wings. I mean, I just feel like
Hmm,
I don't
that's a
know
good
much
point.
about turkey. Like, I feel like everything I've learned is just I've learned through just hunting.
Observation.
Like my family, I didn't grow up in a turkey hunting family,
Hmm.
um, but I forget where I was going with that. But like everything I've learned has just been through experience, and
Hmm.
trying to stay above them whenever you're calling. If they're above you, trying to get parallel to them. Like if I hunt mountains, so I mean, we got busted youth day, um, trying to beat them across the ridge, trying to get ahead of them on a ridge, and they beat us to the spot. But um, I just feel like they're easier to call up than they are down.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah. I think
yeah,
that everybody I've ever talked to will gladly agree with you on that one. And
yeah,
it's definitely got something to do with the way that they see, you know.
yeah. That's what I say. Everything in the woods is trying to kill them. Like not everything, but I mean, like
Well, they have enough predators, that's for damn
right.
sure.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's probably one of the heaviest, you know, predatorized creatures in the woods. And it's funny because it's they always know when I'm hunting them, right? Like I can run into a whole flock of them and they just, well, whatever, buddy, it ain't turkey season. And then come turkey season, they know they're being hunted. And I mean, I think I test to the deer being the same way, but uh,
yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
it's
Because I just went up to my lease Tuesday night. I just needed a break, and I'm like, I'm going for a walk, and it was no, not some great stalker or anything, but I'm in blue jeans and a gray sweatshirt, and I look above me, and there's a deer. I'm like, I'll see how close I can get to this thing. And I
hmm
got to 20 yards, and it finally turned around and looked at me. I mean, it was probably a year and a half old deer, or year old deer right now. But I was like, that wouldn't happen in deer season.
no, it's a lot of fun though, man.
Yeah,
This is why we do it, and we love it. And this is where we get our rocks off. So,
yeah.
um, as far as everything else going over some of the camera stuff, what do you prefer as far as when you're setting up your cameras, directional? You said you're doing a 45-degree angle,
Hmm.
and then there's certain ways you don't want to face the camera. Is that correct?
Yeah. Um, so you want to try and face them north as much as possible. Um, our cameras are pretty good at not triggering on the sun, but I know when we first started, some of our cameras would just be triggered by the heat of the sun.
hmm
But the ones we have, probably our last four, that really hasn't affected it. Um, so if you're looking for creative shots and everything, I had one camera. Now that the leaves are on it, on the trees, it's not as cool. But I had it on the top of a mountain facing south, and the mountain behind it is the Appalachian Trail. And I don't know, I just kind of thought that was cool to always have that in the background. And then I have one that faces directly into the sun for sunset pictures, trying to get deer coming down this logging road with the sun setting. But um, just for everyday use, you want to try and face it north as much as possible to keep that sun glare out of it. Um, but like I said, with the cameras we have now, it doesn't really matter too much.
Right, I got you. And then as far as running them on public lands, do
Hmm.
you do you say, hey, maybe try using like tie wire, paracord instead
Yep.
of the strap?
Yeah, I do that
Um,
with all of mine. I hunt Maryland, where I used to. I didn't this year, but in the one year I had 14 different people on camera, and I wasn't running a lot of cameras. I think I was running four. And you know, what I would do is I have a hawk climbing stick with a aider on the bottom,
mhm,
and I would use that to get up, and then mount it up higher and face down on the trail. I think the camera we're coming out with this summer, and we're hoping to have the cellular version as well, is a wider angle. And we were thinking of the public land hunter, mounting them in a tree for that purpose. Sometimes you mount it up and you have your traditional 45 or 54-degree field of view. You're only getting that spot where this is more, I believe it's 100 or 105 degrees. So you get that wider view.
mhm.
Um, be perfect for putting them up in the tree and angling it down and getting um, a little bit wider of an area.
Similar to a spotlight versus a floodlight.
Yep, yep, exactly.
Yeah,
We
that's
had one, I think it was our second camera, third camera. Um, but what I didn't like about that one was it had more of a GoPro lens to it, the fisheye.
okay.
And I got fooled a couple times on bucks that I thought were pretty big, and they weren't because they were on the edge of the picture. And I was like, holy cow. And then I see the buck in person, and I was like, that's definitely him, and he's not as big as he is in the picture. So this doesn't have that. But
What
yeah, I put them all up. And we do a lot. We do several trade shows a year, and we get that complaint a lot. Well, I can't buy your camera because I hunt public land, and it's a shame that people can't just leave things alone. But
true.
I've had people steal cards. I've the only camera I ever had stolen was on public land, and yes, I know this isn't legal, but it was lagged to a tree with a bear box on it. It was before I started Bowcreek, and it was one of the first like cutty backs from probably 25 years ago now. Um, and they had a screw that would go in through the middle of the camera. So I had to screw through the middle of the camera. I had it on the bear box. The bear box was lagged to the tree with a padlock on it.
Hmm.
And you could see where somebody took a crowbar to it and pried it off the tree. And this was, I think, it's about 5 miles back in
Damn,
on public. But
that's a long way in for someone to be in there fooling around too.
yeah, so they saw it, and then they went and got their crowbar and came back.
Hmm.
I'm like, good luck figuring out the 5-digit security code on there
Yeah.
too.
My buddy lost one to a chainsaw on Game Lands, so
Jeez.
I don't know if it was one of the Game Lands workers or,
Right.
uh, where he was in his spot or what was going on.
I don't know. That's honestly that year is what made me get a lease because I had lost so much, had so much stuff stolen,
Yeah.
and we had a deer cart stolen that we kept back there because it was so far back in. Didn't want to drag that back every time. Had numerous tree stands stolen that year. Had that camera stolen. Somebody stole a card out of one of the cameras, um, which I'd rather them steal the card than take the whole camera, but it's still disheartening.
Yeah, I mean, if it's been soaking for a long time and you really want to know what's on it,
Yeah,
sometimes I'd just take the whole freaking thing, buddy. Holy
yeah.
hell, you already ruined my hopes and dreams. Um, yeah, that does suck. But when you are, like, if you get them up real high or whatever, like say let's say we're using, I think you said it was the 48 is the
That's the higher
non-cellular.
end.
Is
Yeah,
that
48
okay?
non-cellular.
So it's the non-cellular. Say I'm using one of them, right? And here's a scenario. I climb up and I put that camera up top. I'm on a stick and I want to see what that picture looks like. Do those have view, or is there a way that you set it up so that you know that
What
it's
I
taking a
end
good
up doing is, if when I'm up there, is I'll always have like my lineman belt on
Mm-hmm.
while I'm hanging it,
Yep,
and then I just take my phone and I put it on the lens,
I got you.
keep it with the angle of the camera, and take a picture, and that'll give you a good view
Of
of
what you're going
what
to
you
be
should
seeing.
see. Yeah,
Nice. Yep, yep. That's a great technique to use, and I do use the same for sure, and it
yeah. They
works.
all have viewfinders on them,
Mm-hmm.
so you could wait, you know, a couple seconds until the
To
red
take a
light
picture.
stops flashing, and then look at it on the viewfinder. All
I
of our
see.
cameras have viewfinders, which you know helped me kill my biggest buck ever. Like I wouldn't have known. I would add either have a card reader with me or take it home and see the card. I passed up doe that first night, so just because I saw it on the viewer, and then a couple other guys that hunted or helped me that same year. That was our first. No, we've always had a viewfinder on every camera except one. Um, but just having that knowledge right there, um, I think is super helpful.
Yeah. I agree, tenfold there. What I like to do and what my practice is as far as running my trail cameras is I will run 16 to 32 gigabyte cards, depending on if they're
Yep.
picture mode or video. I'm running the
Mm,
32s in the video, of course, and the 16 I run in the picture modes. And that
yeah.
helps me differentiate which card goes where just by looking at the gigabytes of the card. And then on top of that, I have Sharpies and I mark the inside of the camera with a certain color Sharpie so that I
Okay.
know that I can try to keep these two cards, each camera gets two cards
Okay.
so that I can flop them in and out, if I go in and check this goes here, that goes there. And
We
and
have a
that
real. Go ahead.
that has really definitely helped me. That and not being lazy and naming the cameras or putting something on the camera that says camera 3, camera 4,
Right.
hog back,
Yeah.
pinch, right?
Yeah.
Old tree, oak, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but
They the neat thing about our cameras is I think sometimes people think a lot of the problems with people's cameras is actually not the camera, it's the SD card.
mhm,
All of our cameras have a menu function to format your SD card. So if no matter what brand camera you're using, you should always try and format your card. Um, I've literally had people send cameras back, and I'll tell them on the phone, "Did you format your card?" Yes. I'll put an SD card in and it works. And I'm like, listen, I can't duplicate your problem. Like your SD card is bad
mhm,
and they won't believe me. And then they'll go to Walmart and I'll send it back and they're like, oh, that worked. I'm like, yeah, like I know people that think they have bad cameras and I'll tell them, well, even if it's not our camera, like they'll stop by the booth and you hear all their complaints about other companies. And
mhm.
it's like, listen, like I try to just help the sportsman, like
Well,
whether
yeah,
it's my camera or not, like try formatting your card or try a new SD card. Like so many problems just because of SD cards. And I know people that do what you do with trying to keep the same cards. I know since what I found out through all my cellular testing is that even if you keep the same card on a cellular camera, like it doesn't always work. You still have to format it the next time you put it in um, to the exact same camera,
hmm,
and I don't know why. I don't know why it's so different with cellular, but that was I've tested so many cellular cameras over the past 6 years trying to get one to put our name on, and they were all the same way.
yeah. I can tell you, took the cheap way out years and years and years ago and bought the Spy Point whenever they
I'm
first come
sorry.
out. Yeah, and yeah, right. Yeah,
No, I'm serious. You ask anybody that works our booth, like, I'm pretty sure they stopped coming to the Harrisburg show, but they would. That is the brand we hear the most complaints about,
well,
and
I mean, I
I'm
can
like, oh,
understand.
their booth is right up there, and then we watch.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because you know, one of those, should have spent the extra money on whatever brand and got what I paid for because we had it on the lease. We had a lease in Indiana. We were getting pictures of giant deer,
Yeah,
and you know, 3 weeks before we get there, it decides it's going to quit working lithium batteries. The whole shebang, should have worked flawlessly. For
yeah,
card formatted everything, and I figured, well, the connection must not be that good because there's no way it's that the batteries are dead. So, when we get there, we'll check. We'll just check the camera card, and yeah, there was nothing on it. It was
somebody
on, but
somebody told me the key to success with a spy point is to never turn it off. So replace one battery at a time. I don't know how they work, but they're like, if you don't turn it off, they work great. And I'm like, well, at least you figured it out. I don't.
I guess I'll gladly sell mine to anybody listening. It's just collecting dust here, so um, yeah, I
Yeah, we'll
I
get you a Bowcreek one, and
that's what I'm talking about. I'll get a little PA pride going here. That's
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 right.
That's what I need. So I want to touch on some of the shit that's going on with cameras because I use cameras. I like using them. I get entertainment out of them, although I am deliberate when I use them, right? I'm I'm not just going to set this here to bird watch per se. You know,
Right.
hunting to me is not a spectator sport, if you will.
Yeah.
I know what I'm there for. I know why the camera's going there, and I use it as a tool, and I really enjoy using it too, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Same.
so I seen some stuff going on in some other states, right?
Hmm.
And we have this political thing now, right? Now the politicians, they got to dip their toes in this water over here,
Yeah.
and it,
Kansas.
right, correct. So I just want to just touch on your views on that real quick and just see what your feelings are.
Yeah, I think it's like anything, right? Like you're gonna have your bad apples that use it for the wrong reasons. So in their, outside their backyard or something, they have land behind their house and oh, there's a deer back there, let me go on the back porch and shoot it, that kind of stuff. And that's with anything. I I know there's stuff about live streaming too. Again, that's on the ethics of the individual. I feel.
I agree.
Um, I I know I'm not. I like cell cameras, but like I said earlier, if it was up to me, like,
Hmm.
and it is up to me, but I mean,
You feel more
like,
connected.
I love going and pulling cards.
Hmm. Me too.
But I also know that this year they definitely helped me. I mean, if I was a better shot, like it would have helped me a lot. But not going in the woods, not having that pressure on the deer herd. Um, Saw a ton of bucks this year. Um, Got to see 2 out of 3 of my shooters in the 1 week that I took off to hunt. Um, and the deer just seemed to be more natural than when I was in the woods pulling cards all the time.
Hmm.
Um, if it went away, would I be heartbroken? Probably not. I mean, to be honest with you, we sell a lot more traditional cameras than we do cell cams.
Hmm.
And it could be our price point. Our price point isn't $100. Um, but the next cell cam we release will be probably a more middle market, where the one we have now is a high end. Um, so I don't know. I mean, to me, it's all on the ethics of the individual, and you know, obviously there's bad apples in everything, and
There is.
you know, I think the key is, like, as sportsmen and anything, like, we need to stick together. Like, I had this conversation the other day. Do I want to hunt deer with dogs? Not all the time, but I tell you what, I'd like to go down sometime and see it, you know.
Hmm.
But that's how the guys in, say, Virginia, Mississippi grew up. That's
Right.
that's what they know.
Yep.
Uh, you know, the guys, like, you can bait in every state around us,
Right.
Ohio, Maryland, West
Yep.
Virginia,
Yep.
Delaware, New Jersey. Can't bait here. Um, I've hunted deer over bait in Maryland. It's not as easy as people think it is. Like, they
Hmm.
come in so skittish, they're ducking arrows left and right.
Hmm.
Um, I I like, just, it's regional, right? Like, understanding the regional, uh, I guess, culture of different the culture of different areas. Like, I enjoy going sitting in the woods and trying to snipe that deer. When I was in the military, I'm stationed in Arizona hunting with one of my buddies that lived there, and he's like, "All you guys do is snipe." I'm like, "Well, come back there. Like, we don't have all this open area to sit here and glass and make a move on something. Like, we're hunting mountains that are can't see more than 80 yards, and it's like,
That
you
and
don't have a choice. You gotta try and figure it out."
right, that and you were in the woods for 7 days and you seen 3 deer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Been there. But like, so I don't like the politicians being involved in it. Like, I mean,
Right.
I read the quotes from Kansas, and I'm like, like the one guy said something ridiculous to the effect of, well, people don't like having their picture taken, you know. Your picture, okay, so then ban security cameras at Walmart, you know,
Hmm.
ban security cameras everywhere. Then, if people don't like your picture taken, I mean, they
Yeah.
take your
What are they?
picture and speeding tickets, they take it at the Easy Pass. Like,
They're all vampires or what?
right, right. So, like, their reasoning didn't make sense to me. Um, like, I don't know. I feel like there was obviously some sort of money involved
Oh my
to get that
goodness.
decision put through, because they should have spent a little more time thinking through what they said, because what they said really didn't make any sense. They said, "Oh, well, if I stick the other quote I heard was something to the effect of, well, if I stick a trail camera here, I'm claiming this area. It's
Hmm.
public land. Like, you don't claim an area. Like, we're not, you know, early settlers claiming our 40 acres here. Like, people have access to it."
Yeah.
But I don't like the way things are moving in that direction. I understand people's concerns over cellular, um, but you know, it's the same. Like, it might be a bit extreme, but it's the same as putting a gun in the wrong person's hand. You know, like, we don't want guns to be banned just because this guy who probably isn't even allowed to have a gun just went and shot somebody.
Hmm.
You know, so you're going to have your bad apples and everything. What I do like about cellular is the fact that it sells me time. Um, just being a busy person. Uh,
Right.
the guys that like cellular, like, we have customers that buy a lot, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but this outdoor show, we sold way more traditional cameras than we did cellular.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, like you were saying, there's a niche there for the
Mhm.
cellular camera guy, and I think that that is the guy that is, busier than a monkey with six dicks, if you will. He, that's the guy that's, or, your lease guys,
Yeah,
your lease men and women that they have, lease in this state or lease in that
right.
state, which that for sure. Like I can definitely attest to that because I have been there and I have used it. And we do run cellular cameras on the lease that we had.
Yeah,
Fortunately, it's gone, but um, the connection I think you get, like you said, with the other cameras is you're more connected because you're out there and you're moving around. And then when you get up there, your camera's facing this way, and that deer has been doing this, and your
yeah,
cellular cam's here, right? But you went out, and when you were walking up on that camera, you seen that that deer's been doing this, right?
yeah,
So I think, in the long run, that's preferably what you want. But if you need
yeah,
eyes on the ground, your cell camera is definitely going to be that guy for you and get there for you. As far as the politics in it, you know, we the hunters are going to make that decision, not politicians, and that's where I think that there's a cry like, hey, we can't have this shit going on. And like you said, the number one thing that we need to do is come together because I'm sick of seeing people say, oh, screw crossbows. I'm sick of people saying, oh,
right.
um, oh, screw the rifle hunters. Rifle hunters saying, oh, all you archery guys do is wound deer. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
but it's always funny though because I brought this up the other day. I said, then you would just have the trad guys that are just out over here hanging out, and they're just like smoking pot, hanging out, like, hey man, yeah, whatever, you guys do your thing. We get 5 yards away from a deer,
right.
or a turkey or whatever, right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying they all smoke pot. I'm just making a generalization, but but I get it, man. Like, and that's what we need. We need more. I swear to God, the trad community is wonderful. It is awesome, and we need more of that because,
I
like
can't
like
shoot a
like it's
regular bow, so I don't need to get into trad just yet.
right, right, right. But you have, that's that number one thing. That crossbow, that archery thing, that's got to go. If it's a legal means, we're doing it, and that's
Right.
that's that's the end of it too.
Yeah, and the whole crossbow thing, like, the guys that pick it up thinking it's a rifle, right? They quickly find out it's not. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
So, um, one of my good friends is a state cop, and he worked a lot of hours, and he's like, "Well, I don't have the I want to go to the woods, and it's the same with my son right now. He can shoot a regular bow, and he's very good at it. But last year he got one day to hunt, and you know, take your crossbow, because I know, shoot a couple times. He's accurate with it. Where the bow, like you get, like if he gets one day, like I want him to have the best chance possible to have success. Now he didn't have any success, but you know, we need people that are going to get outdoors and gonna fight for our right for the land, the public lands, everything else when people are attacking us, because the bottom line is like hunting is becoming less and less popular. People are busier. Um, so the more people we have in the hunting community, um, the better for us. Now, I guess you could argue too, maybe those people aren't as passionate as the trad hunter. Maybe they're not as passionate as the compound hunter. Um, you know, but like, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like we're killing ourselves from the inside
Hmm.
through just divisiveness, you know, and people see that as a weakness, and that's when they're going to attack it and take away our stuff,
Yep.
our land, our rights to hunt, our trail cameras. Like, I don't know, like just that reading that whole Kansas article just irked me
Hmm.
because of that stupid saying, the stupid comment from the guy saying, well, people just want to be out here. They don't need their picture taken. And it's like, your picture is taken everywhere,
Right.
literally everywhere you go. If you leave your house on any given day and enter a store, your picture is taken. But
Yep.
that's not a problem. But you might wander by a camera in the woods, and now that's a problem. Like, there's less people being affected by a trail camera taking their picture than having your picture taken at every cash register you're at.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you tenfold. That's the message that goes out to all of the outdoorsmen that listen to this. If you can do any one thing, get as many people as you can into the outdoor sport,
Right.
because every single one of us is a dying breed, whether we like it or not. And the other thing that I always mention is, the kids or the
Oh,
people that need to be introduced to this, that's the next generation. I don't know how else to put it. So, you, the guys that know that a kid needs a mentor, or even an adult needs a mentor, right? We got to step up. We got to do it. We got to take care of them. We got to show them the ways, and that's the
we
only
have
way that there's going to be a future in this. So,
we have a friend from the Philadelphia area. My friend Matt calls him his fresh air kid. He got him into hunting, and this guy just loves it, and he's my age. I'll get his name out here, Joe McPeak. That'll make him feel good. So Joe's the fresh air kid, and you talk about like a backwards way to start hunting. He went turkey hunting, shot a bearded hen for his first turkey and spring
nice.
gobbler, and then his first deer, uh, his first doe was a button buck. I'm like, man, you're just doing everything backwards over here. But
Yeah.
he loves it. He's just ate up with it, and anytime we get together, he just picks my brain. And you want to feel like something. You forget how much you know until you teach somebody or have conversations with people like that. And it
Hmm.
was kind of the same with when I took my son hunting, and just the things that you don't even realize that you know until like you're teaching somebody new. And it really reinvigorates you to like get out there and teach more people.
Yeah. Well, what that is there's no better fulfillment than helping someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, once you're bringing value to other people, and that's why I feel so good about having guys on and doing this show, because there's value being had here by somebody
Yeah.
somewhere, and you know, that's what I can do. I see the downloads on some of the episodes are higher than the other, and I always think, boy, maybe that's a good amount of people, and if I was in an auditorium, that's a lot of people, but if it was this many people, that's still a lot of people. So
Right.
we're winning. We're doing something. We're doing something good here. Um,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I did want to touch on, so in our state here of Pennsylvania, um, I'd like for you to discuss on one thing that you think we're doing right as far as any game laws or fishing regulations, since you are an outdoorsman on that end, or it could even be on the spectrum of state parks or anything like that. Anything in the outdoor space. And then on the flip side, you got to give me something that you'd like to see maybe possibly changed.
Oh boy. The things I think we're doing right is twofold that I really like, and I'll probably lose customers over this. But
Like,
the start of turkey season, I love where we start with turkey season. I see it every year. Post pictures, you know, to trail cam website or Facebook pages or anything, and there's a bird strutting in March, and it's like, well, by the time our season starts, it's all over, and it's like, no, no, it's not. Like I feel like that's timed pretty well. I actually have more success the last 2 weeks of our season than I do the first 2 weeks, and I think that might just be the flock I have. We get a lot of evening pictures. So uh, I like the start of our turkey season. The other thing I like is antler restrictions. Um, I just feel like from the time I was a kid till now, definitely seeing a lot more uh, higher class deer.
mm-hmm.
And one thing I would like is the people that don't agree with that and say they're just a meat hunter. 90% of you aren't shooting doe, so don't tell me you're a meat hunter.
Yeah, call it how it is.
Right.
Call it how it is because yeah, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Or I take a picture of a 4.5 year old deer that I shot, and it's 3 times bigger than a year and a half, 2 year old buck. Like
Right. I do feel
it's
like we're doing a lot right, though. I
yeah.
mean, I don't, I don't pheasant hunt. I have a few times. I wish I could do it more, but deer is the thing I like the most. So unless I kill a buck early, um, that's not going to happen.
Hmm.
I'm deer hunting. Um, and after that, I need to fill my doe tags. So I don't get to pheasant hunt much, but everything I've heard from pheasant hunters, they really like the pheasant tag. Um, Clearly, a lot more birds go into it. There's more money put into it. Um,
Yeah.
I remember my dad and grandfather pheasant hunting before I could hunt, and we had a German short hair, and my grandfather had a black lab, and so we had a pointer and a flusher, and so I remember them, and I remember walking with them before I could hunt, and the amount of birds. I mean, we're not Iowa or Kansas or anything like
Right.
that.
Right.
All the feedback I've heard about the pheasant tag has been good. Um, as far as what I don't like, I I'll probably get murdered for this too. I would like I hunt Maryland, and like we we can go down there. We have a good chance at a velvet buck, the first week. But then their season continues straight through till the end of January.
Hmm.
I feel like I feel like Sunday hunting and longer seasons. So start
Well,
hating on me about the deer numbers and everything else, but um,
you're gonna fit right in with, I think, the Common Core. Especially. I don't want to go down the road because I've talked about it way too much, but the Sunday hunting, obviously,
yeah,
and as far as the season length, so our whole a lot of surrounding states are the same,
yeah,
where that archery season comes in and it don't come out until late January,
hmm.
and that's pretty normalized across the board. I
I
know we
mean,
have a lot more.
Kentucky, they can hunt black powder during the rut, and they can
Right.
use inlines. Um, I don't know. The Sunday hunting thing bothers me. Just having a youth hunter,
Yeah.
and sports schedules and things like that. And
Yep.
there's been many times. Hopefully, none of his teachers listen to this podcast, but I've taken him out of school just so he could go hunt. We had to do it this year. Had to do it.
Hmm.
Um, and when he got his first buck, I had a buck on camera. It was Friday, Saturday was opening, no, yeah, Saturday was opening day of archery, and we couldn't go. And Sunday, I went up to pull the card, and I see that this buck was on camera Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I told my wife he's not going to school tomorrow.
Right.
Like, sorry. And he ended up shooting his first buck that day, which
That's
is
awesome.
way more memorable than whatever he would have been taught in school that day.
Right.
Like it's one day, but
Hmm.
I just feel like getting kids out there is important. But again, there's political stuff behind that as well. And
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's the way I was raised too. The ladies in the office in school, they knew where dad was taking us.
yeah,
Half a day on Friday and we won't be back until Tuesday or,
yeah,
all that stuff. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, right? You're
no,
leaving school to go get an outdoors education.
yeah,
That's the way that my dad always brought it up and told them, well, they're just going to get educated. And, my woodsmanship, it
yep,
shows. And uh, I think the beauty in what my dad did for my brother and I was he's better at reading some things than I am, and I'm better at reading some of the other things. So when we go somewhere together, we can really win.
yeah,
But I agree with you on everything you said. I figured I would because it's a pretty common it's a common thing. I will tell you, the state of Pennsylvania has now extended the small game season to the beginning of September, which is humongous for especially
yeah,
youth hunters, right?
yep,
So now you can get out and shoot squirrel and stuff in
right,
the early season. And then also the second season is really good for your pheasants, uh, your your squirrel, your rabbit, right?
yeah,
Um, but I think that those are some of the things we're doing right, and I just wanted to throw that in there. But there is one thing that we did talk about, and I just have to throw this in there before we start wrapping this up here. So, in all the surrounding states, right? There's baiting and stuff like that, and I like would like to ask some people a question, and I've never really got a concrete answer on this because I use calls, right?
right.
I rattle, I grunt, I bleat. I've killed more bucks bleeding than any other tool that I have in my bag. And is that baiting,
Yeah,
right?
true.
I
I mean,
bring that
it's
up to some
tricky.
people and they're like, son of a bitch, I never thought about that. Or you have some guys that use like some deer pee and stuff like that.
Right.
Or I mean, now I know, when you say baiting, but you'd have to look up the definition really. And I
Yeah.
that's the word that they use and they say, no baiting, but we can use calls and stuff like that. So I personally don't advocate for the feeding of
Right.
deer during the season,
Right.
um, because I just don't think that you need to do it. I
Right.
I
I
think that
don't think
there's
you need to do it in Pennsylvania. I mean, I understand why they do it in Texas.
r-
Um,
right, right,
I some of the places I've hunted in Maryland like are just thick as crap. And to pull them out, like you can do it there. If it's legal, like I don't mind doing it.
hmm
I don't
right,
feel it's something I need to do. I love like I read a lot of Charlie Alzheimer stuff before he passed away, and like I felt like a lot of what he dealt with in the Appalachian Mountains of New York is a lot of what I dealt with hunting. Um, at that time, I was hunting state game lands 211, which is like 44,000 acres, and you see 3 deer a day. It was a good day,
hmm
but there was giants up there, and like
right,
just some of the stuff. Not all of it, but the majority of what he said like seemed to translate into what I saw in the woods. But he had one thing that always stuck with me was mountain deer tend to use 11 different trails. So already going into the woods, if you knew all 11, you have a 9% chance, right?
right.
Where farm deer tend to use, I think it was 5 or 6. You know,
Wow.
um, so I just like that aspect of the challenge, like trying to figure that out. Why they're there, what are they using, why are they using it, when they're using it, um, things like that. It's part of it's part of the puzzle, you know, as far as that PA pride of trying to be a better woodsman. Where baiting, and I guess you could argue, baiting's just a small food plot, right? Like, I mean,
It could be. It could
that's
be,
what,
right? I
well,
mean, that's a broad term, so.
right. I'm friends with Kirk Price, who used to hunt with the Untamed. He now has
Hmm.
his own channel, but
Hmm.
it, we were laughing about this because obviously there's people in the industry that bait and they're baiting by legal means, but they'll hide it behind like a log. And I'm like not gonna throw the people under the bus, but like, and
Oh,
he's
good.
like, his next like after we talked, his next story was there's all this corn like spread out. He's like, I'm not hiding it. Like, it's legal. I can do it. And it's hunting West Virginia, and he has probably a 50-pound bag of corn just all over, like right in front of his stand. And his story said, "Food plot came in nice this year." And I just started dying laughing because I knew I knew his Instagram probably blew up on that one. But
Oh yeah, but you know what? Sometimes even I like sticking a knife in there and just twisting
yeah,
it around a little bit. Some
yeah,
some people like to see the world burn sometimes, so
yeah.
yeah,
But
it's
but a
it's
lot of those guys, they hunt some of the big archery only areas down there, and
oh
they're
yeah.
killing giants, and they're using corn. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, I don't I don't know. Like, I've never hunted there, so I can't speak to it, but I just like the challenge.
Yeah.
I'm at the age I don't need to kill anything. I feel like I get more enjoyment out of watching my son hunt and being in the woods with him. And
Yeah.
um to all the parents out there, like, you think your kid's not listening. And he killed a 10 point on the ground the other year. And when he told me what he was thinking, I said, I will never tell you what to do again. Right? Like, he's literally laid on the ground, flat out, not leaned up against anything, sleeping. It had just stopped raining. And I'm like, well, if anything's going to move, it's going to move now. And I looked down the mountain, and there was a buck coming across the ridge below us. And then it started angling towards us. And I woke him up. And I was like, move your left leg up, move your right leg up. Okay, sit up, you know. And this buck comes, um, and I'm ranging. And at that time, he had a youth crossbow, and it was 25 yards. And I'm like, put the top pin on its back, you know. And he's ready to shoot. And he's like, man. And I'm like, do not shoot there. And because there's like saplings. And he goes, I have to. Don't. Right. The arrow goes flying. And my first thought was, well, here comes disappointment. And tucks it right behind the shoulder. Anyway, he ends up getting it. And we're talking about it while we're sitting there. And I'm like, that was a hell of a shot. And he goes, well, when he hit the opening, his shoulder was back. So I knew I couldn't shoot there. I had to wait for him to take a step and open up the pocket. And I'm like, you thought about like all this? Like, I have friends my age that wouldn't even consider that. Like, they probably try and blow through the front shoulder.
Hmm.
And I'm like, all right, well, you're on your own from now on. You pick your spot. You make sure you go through the same thought process. And it's just like, I tell him all this stuff, and he's not. He's a very calm kid. Like, he's the opposite of me. Um, but like, you think things aren't registering, and then when they tell you all this stuff back, it's like, okay, like, I
It's
guess things
clicking.
are getting through. Yeah. So just keep teaching your kids and teach them the right things. And now he's finding deer beds on the mountain and picking up like two hairs out of a bed or something, and looking at why they bedded there. And it's just like, it feels good that that he's picking that kind of stuff up.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the fruits of your labor you're
Right.
getting from that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
it's exciting. Like I could never hunt again and just hunt with him. And people are like, "Why don't you let him go on his own?" I'm like, "Because I want to be with him. I don't want
yeah,
to care less what I kill, you know."
right.
But it's more exciting being there with him.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun, and I look forward to it down the road in my
Yeah,
life. And until then, I have a godson that's under my wing for now, and
yeah,
I'm sure when he gets older, he'll thank me for it, and I'll have him to help me out too. So when I'm old and decrepit and want to kill deer, I'll say, smack him on the
yeah,
back of the head. Come on, we gotta go.
yeah.
Um,
Well, you still see like Mr. Hayes down at Mossy Oak hunting and like
yep.
all their family pictures and stuff, and it's like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. To us, there's nothing better, man. That's where we get our rocks off, and
Right.
that's the camaraderie that comes with hunting is it's unbelievable. I've played a lot of
Yeah.
sports, been a part of a lot of different teams of things, and I just never done anything like that in my life. So,
Right. And I say like it's the closest thing for me to the military and the brotherhood like you have there. And it's we talked about the cell camps and it's like, man, like during archery season, like we have our little Facebook group with you know, it's like four guys, three Lee, John, Tyler, Bix. So four guys that help me out and like they have cell cams and when somebody's cell cam goes off, like they're blowing the phone's just blowing up all through like October, November, and it's like, you see that buck you got on camera, and it's just like it becomes deer camp like every single night, like
right.
through the fall. But
Yep.
the just that brotherhood's awesome.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing, but um. we will quit talking everybody's ear off here, at least for this episode.
Yeah,
And before we go, man, tell us about the company, where we can find everything at, where we can order the cameras from, and anything else you want to throw in there.
yeah. You can find it at bowcreekoutdoors.com. Uh, we sell turkey calls, cameras, and deer feed. Um, should be launching hopefully, if the tests keep going well, two more cameras this year.
Nice.
Um, there'll be similar cameras. One will just be a cellular version, and uh, one word Bow Creek Outdoors on Instagram, three words on Facebook, Bow Creek Outdoors, and yeah, I'm terrible at social media, but I'll try and post more.
It's all right. I'm here. I'll help you.
Yeah,
So, but thank you, brother. Thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed the talk. Um,
yeah, definitely. Thank you.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's
We
it's
would keep everybody here all night if we could, but
yeah,
um, we'll put this one in the books. And guys, get out there. Yeah, I know I have a lot of Pennsylvania pride coming from this show's listeners. So, Bow Creek Outdoors, Pennsylvania based camera company. I don't think that it says it any better than that. I hope that this episode helps you out, brother, and I greatly appreciate you coming through for us.
yeah. No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll check in with you later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Have a great season.
Yeah, you too.